Alright, we're back. We are back. We've got some walls to sheet now. I've insulated everything if you've seen that in the last video. And now I'm just measuring up these bottom sheets. It's where all the services coming through, the hot and cold water, and a couple of power points and that sort of thing. So I'm just marking it out on the board. Then I pull out my little core drill set, drill a couple of holes. I'm actually using the core drill bit to do the power point as well. Right here, this blue stuff. What is it? Everyone always asks. It's called stud adhesive. It's a specially formulated glue, and it sticks plasterboard or drywall to timber or metal studs. Alright, I got my sheet on fine. I pulled the cables through. That is the oven cable, and it fits nicely. And I use my collated Hilti screw gun, which is still damaged, to nip it all up. And I feel like I've gone over a bit of insulation or a cable or something behind there, so I just had to take a couple of screws off to make sure it's sitting flat and then pop it back in. As you can see, I'm doing a lot of misfiring screws because it is broken. I still haven't gotten it fixed yet. Alright, just getting behind that drainage pipe, put a few screws in down the bottom. Some of you might pick up on it. If you have a wall in Australia that has water going through it, like taps or anything like that in kitchens or laundries, you should use like a water resistant sheet. But I'm not. This sheet is actually soundproof, sound resistant board. It's called Sound Check, so that's what we're using. I'm just measuring out and cutting that power point and that safety switch. Actually, that up top there, that is the power point for the range hood, and we're using glue here. So it's glue in the field and screws around, and my wife has come to help lift some sheets, thank God, because these sheets are really heavy and she's very strong. And she's helping me pull these cables through, which can be pretty tricky when you're by yourself. You can see on the right there, I've actually put a piece of sheet with a recess on it onto the wall there, just so it can mimic having a sheet below. Then I'm going to pull that off afterwards. But I get screws right around it, and you'll see right at the end I also screw a piece of plasterboard to the midsection, and it just holds the sheet back onto the timber while the glue dries. If you haven't been watching my other videos on this series, this is actually a room conversion into a kitchen that I'm doing in my own house, and this is the nice little piece that fits in there. I didn't have enough sound check. I had to do a couple of sheets which I didn't want to do. I had to cut them down and have a few joins on the other wall, and my wife just helping me with that butt joint there so it fits nicely. I will be patching up the other areas in the ceiling as well. They need to be fixed, but everything in this wall is done, and once this wall is done I can put the cabinets in and that sort of thing, set them all up. Yeah, I've just used that bit to pull the power points through. They do have the plates connected, so you have to make the holes a little bit bigger, but don't worry, the plates is going to cover it nicely. And I've just knocked some blocks on where that butt joint is going, just so it's not flapping around, so it can be screwed to the next sheet. Just a few blocks, and we've fed the cables through. That is the power point and the safety switch there. A little bit of a gap in the butt joint, but it's alright, we'll still make do. And Katrina, my daughter, has gone to help us out. I taught her how to screw into the wall. Okay, we're back in here, and fast forward a little bit, and I've put some sound insulation in the wall. Now the other stuff, that was not sound insulation. This stuff is, and it's packed a lot more firm, and I've even put it between the jamb and our framing. If you remember around the other side, we've got that timber VJs. I'm actually been cutting behind the lower section. There's the VJs, as you can see in front of me. I've been putting these pieces of sound check behind the VJs, not gluing them or anything like that, just sitting in there nice and tight, and then putting the insulation straight over the top. And I'm just thinking that's going to benefit a little bit more with sound rating. I wanted to get it as good as possible, because once this wall's built, it's going to be staying up forever, and it's going to be like a guest room, so people want their own privacy when they're cooking and that sort of thing. You know, you can't hear so easily what's going on in the next room. That's the idea. Did have some nogs in there, so I just have to cut the insulation around those little timber nogs so they fit nicely. And I'll give it a little bit of a sweep out here, because I'm thinking I'm going to run a bit of caulking. You don't need to, but I'm just running some caulking just to seal the gaps. Might help with acoustics, not too sure. But I mean, this caulking is nothing special. Okay, now it's time for more gluing. Get the sheet in there, cut nice and tight. I wanted to make it as tight as I could. And I don't have my collated screw gun now, I'm just using my impact driver, the one that I bought off Facebook. The skin for like $120, I can't remember. I thought I'd put a few screws in the wall there, make sure that the glue dries, and I can take them out later if I want, but it should be fine. You're not meant to put glue near screws. Okay, I'm getting my Makita drywall cutter and I'm just cutting this straight, because when I cut it out the electrician was here and I just ripped a bit out of the ceiling. I didn't measure it up nicely, so I've just cut it past the framing so I can stick a bit of timber in there so we can stitch the board up. And I also like to put some screws in going along the timber joist a bit further as well, in case any have come loose. And this ceiling was actually nailed as well, so it's good to put some screws in, but it's still going well. And I'm just filling in these gaps now. Cut a few strips of the sound check and screwing the perimeter as well, make sure that's nice and secure. And I want to make sure everything's kind of done and ready before I mix up any compound and do it all at once, do a big mix and tape everything up and make sure this is nice and flat. So I'll definitely be giving it a scrape down. Just joining the duct for the range hood. It's a 3-meter duct and running out to there. That's the feet running through to here. I had to go over the door rather than direct. So I lost about 1 meter coming around that. So I have to have an extension, and the range hood is going here. So we're going to be leaving it up here in the ceiling. All right, let the technician work. All right, stand back, everyone. Okay, one thing to remember when you're joining these ducts is to make sure it's sealed properly. You don't want any creases as well. They say don't have more than 3 bends in your run as well. Sometimes you can't avoid it, but make sure everything's sealed up. Using these clamps is pretty good. You can also use some duct tape. And there's also a bracket near the edge of this. I knocked it down with my hammer afterwards to make sure that it doesn't ever split the ducting. So it's nice and sealed up now and ready to work. Now I'm just going to put the insulation back around it now that my sheet is ready to fix. And I just put a little timber nog in the end there just to join that sheet so it's not flapping. Even though above here I'm either going to do some kind of bulkhead or I'm going to cornice above the cabinets. Still not sure. I think bulkhead looks good, and the sheet goes in nicely after I've cut it nice and straight. And now we'll just screw it all up, get everything ready, get all the other pieces in, make sure our screws are all behind the sheet, and nothing's going to slow us down when we're doing our mix. See, if we didn't add the timber here, we wouldn't be able to screw the two sheets together and they'd be flapping around a little bit. So we want to make sure it's nice and rigid. And then we're getting there. Just a few more screws to put in around the place. More screws the better. And they were loose screws, which I was putting in as well. I had to pull them out of the strips, out of the collated strips, and I just get another little piece of sound check in there. Screw that up. And it's nearly all pieced together now. Just this last little bit. Put a few timbers behind it. You don't have to use a big 70 by 35 timber or anything like that everywhere. Just as long as the sheets are holding themselves together. Most of the weight is going to be on that framing that was already there. Definitely like to put a few screws in either side and make sure you've got all the nails out, the existing nails. They're all clear.
That's why I carry a tool belt.
And that little piece that pops straight back in there.
This is just so good to have everything.
Where I cut it out from earlier. I just cut that out so I could feed that duct through over the where I could grab it and just nip it up, and that's ready to go. Now once you've done that, before you mix up any of the mix, you want to make sure it's all straight down properly. You want to make sure all the screws are in, because once the mix is out, you want to just be flying through and nothing slow you down and ready to go. You should always keep a screwdriver in your back pocket as well, but make sure all the high points are gone, any loose paint, anything like that. You want to get it all. As well, it will stop it from dropping in the mix. If you get some of this loose paint and plasterboard and everything else in your mix, it's going to dry a lot faster. It's going to have rocks, it's going to have lumps. It's just not going to be as good. And you know, you probably won't get maximum time out of it, that's for sure. And we're going to be floating right over all of this as well. We're going to be using fiber fuse tape, and that's going to be in the next video. So thanks for watching. If you're still watching this far in, thank you very much, and I'll see you on the next video.